So UFC Fight Night, Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. We're going to be looking at the main event. We're going to be looking at the co-main event. And we're going to be looking at the rescheduled bout between Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann. But before we get started, don't forget to like the video. It helps us out a ton. We appreciate it a lot. Let's jump right into it. So we got the number 2 ranked bantamweight, Petr No Mercy Yan. He is 16-4. He's 30 years old. He's 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. And he's currently on a 2-fight losing streak with losses to Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling. And he is going up against the number 3 ranked bantamweight, the machine Merab Dvalishvili. He is 15-4. He's 32 years old. He's 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. And he's currently on an 8-fight win streak with his last 3 over Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, and Cody Stamann. So Merab will be coming in as a plus 210 underdog, while Petr Yan is a minus 250 favorite. So this is going to be a classic matchup between grappler and striker. You know, Merab being the wrestler, but he has made his name through his cardio. Merab, he pushes an intense pace and he applies so much pressure. He's almost weaponized it. He's always the one pushing forward and trying to lead the fight. In his last fight against a very experienced Jose Aldo, he was able to freeze his offense with a ton of pressure and with constant takedown attempts. You know, when it comes to stats, Merab only lands about 40% of his takedowns, which to the naked eye could look very bad, but he still averages 6.5 takedowns per fight, and that is just insane. And that speaks to how persistent and consistent Merab is with his takedowns. But he will be going up against a very experienced striker in Petr Yan. Yan, he's a really good boxer, probably has some of the best boxing in the UFC as of right now, but I think his biggest attribute in this fight will be his counter striking. I think his counter striking will be key. I think his ability to counter is going to give Merab problems down the road, because Merab, he tends to loop his shots, and as the fight goes on, he becomes very predictable, and that's going to be an easy read for Petr Yan. You know, although Yan will have the clear advantage when it comes to the striking, you know, he himself has pretty good offensive wrestling. You know, we saw in his last fight against a very good Sean O'Malley that he was able to take him down a few times. He was able to shoot takedowns and also use a lot of trips. I think people might have the impression that Petr Yan's takedown defense is not good, especially since Aljamain Sterling was able to backpack him for a couple rounds. But I think Aljamain Sterling's transition game is way better than Merab Dvalishvili's, and I think that has to do with Aljamain's background in jiu-jitsu. I think that really helped him transition from wrestling to jiu-jitsu and was able to do it in a split second, and I think that's something Merab is not able to do. I think the longer this fight goes, the harder it will get for Merab Dvalishvili. It doesn't help that Merab's not the best finisher. A lot of his fights do go to decision, and I think the longer this fight goes, the harder it will be for him to stop Petr Yan. While I think it's going to be the opposite for Petr Yan. I think the longer this fight goes, the better Yan is going to get. I think that it's going to be much easier for Yan to stop the takedowns. Like I mentioned earlier, Merab's striking is very predictable, and the more Yan sees of it, the easier it will be for him to counter and maybe land a huge shot. We saw Merab hurt against Marlon Moraes, who's also a pretty powerful puncher. I think the keys for Petr Yan in this fight are to use his IQ and make those reads. I think the longer this fight goes, Petr Yan will be able to see those openings in Merab's striking and land his big shot. And lastly, and obviously, takedown defense. He has to be able to stop Merab's takedowns. Maybe not all of them, but he has to be able to stop most of them. And if he gets taken down, he has to get up, because Merab will be fine holding him down. So yeah, all that being said, I have Petr Yan by decision. I just think the longer this fight goes, and this fight will be 5 rounds, the better Petr Yan will get. And Merab's striking leaves a lot to be desired, man. And it's, I think, the biggest flaw in his game so far. And I think his wrestling, although it can be technical, sometimes it's very sloppy. And I think Petr Yan will be able to stop a lot of them. This is a really good matchup. Obviously, I have Yan by decision, but let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm underestimating the pressure and the wrestling that Merab Dvalishvili brings? Or do you think Petr Yan is just a little too good, a little too well-rounded for someone like Merab right now? Leave a comment down below. I'm interested to hear what you say. And now for a little commercial break.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Viva Mexico, güey! Viva Mexico!
So in the co-main event, we got the battle of the Alexanders. We got the number 8 ranked Alexander Drago Volkov. He's 35-10. He's 34 years old. He's 6'7" with an 80-inch reach, and he's coming off a TKO win over Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And he will be going up against the number 13 ranked heavyweight Alexander King Kong Romanov. He's 16-1. He's 32 years old. He's 6'2" with the 75-inch reach, and he's coming off a loss to Marcin Tybura after losing his first fight as a pro ever. Alexander Romanov is looking to bounce back big against a very seasoned Alexander Volkov. Romanov, he's a very, very strong grappler. So far in his UFC run, he has taken down every opponent that he has faced, and he has done that in impressive fashion. And in this fight, he's going to be looking to do the same thing. He has shown that he has some very good entrances to his takedowns. And when he doesn't, he does a very good job of getting to his spot in order to get the takedown that he wants. Although there has been a lot of bright spots, there also has been a lot of bad spots. There has been times where his technique has been so sloppy, where his takedowns have been all power and strength and less technique. And usually when he does this, he has gassed out. We saw it in the Spino fight, and we saw in his last fight against Tybura. His striking is not where it needs to be. He tends to swing very wildly and sloppily. Obviously, as a heavyweight and a big guy, he still has a lot of power. He just doesn't land as frequently because his technique is way off at times. You know, when he takes these guys down, he has a really good submission game. He has a very good submission sense. And obviously, he's got a ton of ground and pound. They don't call him King Kong for no reason. You know, he's facing a very experienced, a very tall fighter in Alexander Volkov. Since joining the UFC, Volkov has been trying to mend that hole when it comes to his grappling. And don't get it twisted, he has improved a lot. You know, not just anyone can take him down anymore. Great grapplers still are able to take him down. We saw that in the Tom Aspinall fight, and we also saw that in the Curtis Blades fight. And unfortunately for Alexander Volkov, Alexander Romanov is a great grappler. You know, we're going to have to see the best of Volkov's takedown defense in this fight for him to have a chance. Because if he gets taken down, we have shown that Volkov's not the best at getting back up. And if he allows himself to stay flat, Romanov will take advantage and start looking for subs. And if he doesn't get the sub, he's going to look for the ground and pound. That being said, Volkov still has a chance. You know, even if he gets taken down early, if he can delay the finish, you know, make it difficult for the sub and try to get up, and trying to make the takedowns very difficult for Romanov, you know, there's a big chance that Romanov could gas out. And if Romanov gasses out, I can clearly see Volkov outstrike him, very similar to what Marcin Tybura did, especially because Romanov's striking is still so green, and his striking sense is still very green, that I think he's going to struggle mightily with the reach advantage that Volkov has. So the biggest question is if Volkov will be able to stop these takedowns. You know, we saw in Romanov's last fight against Marcin Tybura, Tybura was able to outlast him. Tybura was not able to stop the takedowns early, but as the fight went on and Romanov gassed, he was able to get back into the fight. Volkov will be looking to do the same. I think Alexander Romanov's grappling is just too good in this matchup. I think he's going to be too strong for Volkov. I think Volkov is going to hit the ground early, and I think this is where it matters most. I think if he's able to get up, or if he's able to delay the finish, he stands a chance. But I just think Romanov's too strong and too skilled once it gets down there. And Volkov, I think, is still a little too green. I think once he gets him down, I think Romanov gets the sub, so I'm going to have to go with Romanov by submission. I just think he's too strong, too skilled. He's going to take Volkov down early, and I think he's going to finish it early. Leave a comment down below. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Do you think I'm underestimating Volkov's skill, or do you think Alexander Romanov is going to run right through him? Let me know down below. So we got the number 6 ranked light heavyweight, the minor Nikita Krylov. He's 29-9. He's 30 years old. He's 6'3" with a 77.5-inch reach, and he's currently on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Volkan Ozdemir and Alexander Gustafsson. And he is going up against the number 8 ranked light heavyweight Ryan Superman Spann. He's 21-7. He's 31 years old. He's 6'5" with the 81.5-inch reach, and he's currently on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Diego Reyes and Ion Cutelaba. So Ryan Spann, he is an absolutely powerful striker, and he actually put his power on display in his last fight against Dominic Reyes. He absolutely starched Reyes, putting him asleep in absolutely savage fashion. Although he has power, he tends to get very reckless in these exchanges, you know, and it has gotten him hurt. He got stung in his fight against Anthony Smith, and he also got stung in his loss to Johnny Walker. I think his ground game is getting better. I think he is slowly improving. I do think he's becoming more well-rounded under Fortis MMA. You know, he has a very, very nasty guillotine that Nikita Krylov will have to be wary of. He has 8 wins by this guillotine, with his last one coming against Ion Cutelaba. And although he might not be the most technical, he's only a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he is very strong in these grappling positions. So Nikita Krylov, he's a karate black belt who in his last 2 fights has come out the gate absolutely blazing. He put on a nasty pace against Volkan Ozdemir, one that he could not keep up with. And he put a ton of pressure on Alexander Gustafsson in their opening round, eventually landing his big shot and getting him out of there. And what I really like about Nikita Krylov is he really looks to mix it up. He has shown that he can be a pretty good striker, outpointing his opponent. As of late, he's been showing that he's much more well-rounded than just a striker. He's been able to take his opponents down. But just because you can doesn't mean you should, because this has backfired for Nikita Krylov a few times. 6 of his 9 losses have come by submission, and his submission loss to Paul Craig, he was actually the one that initiated the grappling and started the takedowns. One thing I don't like about Nikita Krylov is that he gets hit way too much. You know, he can get a little reckless just like Ryan Spann when he's applying this pressure, and it has led to him absorbing a lot of damage. And I don't know if he can absorb the power of Ryan Spann without going to sleep. His grappling is not perfect, but Ryan Spann has power, man. We have seen that he can get out of bad positions, We saw that in the Cutelaba fight when Cutelaba mounted him. He got mounted and he was able to get into half guard and eventually switch the position that led to the standing guillotine. One thing that gives me hope for Krylov is that he has done this before, that he has been able to get decision wins and navigate fights against very powerful fighters. He did this in his last fight against a heavy hitter in Volkan Ozdemir, and he also did it in his decision win against Johnny Walker. So it's very possible for him to win this fight. I think this is very good matchmaking. Obviously, both guys are ranked pretty highly. Both guys are in their prime, and both guys are rounding out their game. So I think in this fight, if it goes the distance, we're bound to see a little bit of everything. And I think since Nikita Krylov has much more experience navigating fights against bigger and stronger and more powerful opponents, I think I'm gonna have to lean with Nikita Krylov by submission. I think although Ryan Spann has shown good submission defense, I think overall his grappling leaves a lot to be desired, and I think if he leaves any opening, Nikita Krylov will be there to take it. Krylov himself has to be very careful with these positions as well. He can also get submitted. Ryan Spann is very, very strong when torquing those submissions, but I think Nikita Krylov will be able to navigate this fight safely. He will be able to win exchanges on the feet and eventually take it to the ground. So I got Krylov by submission, but let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm underestimating the power and skill of Ryan Spann, or do you think Nikita Krylov adds to his win streak? Let me know down below. So those were my thoughts, my predictions on UFC Fight Night Yan versus Dvalishvili. It's gonna be a great night of fights. Don't forget to tune in. We got some really good matchups. We got Said Nurmagomedov versus the Dragon Jonathan Martinez. That's guaranteed to be a banger. We also got Victor Henry versus Tony Gravely. Man, that one's guaranteed to be fireworks. You know, and then some fighters you always have to tune in for is Tyson Nam because of his power, and then Ariane Lipski, obviously, because she's the queen of violence. Yeah, don't forget to tune in. Let me know what matchup you're looking forward to the most. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you next week for Usman versus Edwards 3, another banger.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
But until then, take care.